So now we're sprouting. The sprouting, every time we lay it on the table, we make sure that we roll it out so that it's the same, about the same thickness. We want everything to be very consistent. Consistency is the key for good sprouting. We put it down, we spread it all out for on the first time, and we make sure that it's not too wet. We don't want a lot of moisture to be on that tarp, on whatever you're laying it on, because eventually that can create problems, molds, mildews, off flavors, off smells, all this stuff. So during this step, we just throw it down and then we cover it. The reason we cover it is because we do not want the sun to see it. If it sees it, it will turn green. It will give you off flavors, off aromas, and those kind of things. So you want to cover it. I use a tarp. You can use plastic, anything, as long as it has somewhat of a seal. You don't want it to be completely tight. You want to put something heavy on top of it so that it doesn't blow open, of course. But you don't want to zip it up tight, because then that's going to encourage molds and those kind of things. Yeah, that's... So what are we doing in the sprouting phase? The sprouting phase is all about sugars. What's happening is, it's as the barley sprouts, it creates sugars that it needs to create the sprout that comes through the grain and into the shoot of the plant. So the longer the shoot is, the more sugars it is gaining, it's creating. So the smaller the shoots, the less sugar. The larger the shoot, the more sugar. The problem is, if we let the shoots get too long, they come out of the barley. And they can give off flavors if they touch the sun. Much like potatoes will turn green if it sees the sun. It creates off flavors. And this is what we want to avoid. That's why we always cover the tar. We always cover the barley with a tarp or some other appliance. So if you saw, the barley will create with the roots together in a clump. And it'll make like cakes. It'll make like almost like sheets that we need to break up. Now, some people don't, but the reason we break it up is because the moisture will get sitting in the bottom, and it'll have the possibility of creating molds or any kind of fungus or anything that can give off flavors, or cause the barley itself to go bad, to give off flavors and stuff, and the end result of the beer. So we want to break those up, and then fluff it back up, and then we let it sit another day. Today is the second day, and we're about there. Tomorrow we will be taking these out and putting them out in the sun to dry. So I'll show you the different sizes of shoots, so you can see for yourself at what stage you need to be watching and what to look out for. Here you can see the different size And you see how this one is smaller and hardly any roots. Don't be fooled by roots because the shoot will still grow out of it. I usually like taking 5 or 6, and as you can see how they're getting longer with the shoots. That'll tell you when they're about ready. You can see how the different shoots. Longer they are. Now, once or twice a day, you should go out, check it, rotate it, and as you do this, you want to make sure that on the bottom there isn't any moisture. There isn't any standing water. As I said before, you don't want your berries to stand in any water whatsoever, because it's going to cause many problems. And then you sort it. You just kind of mix it up. You put the bottom on top and the top on the bottom. We're just rotating it, put it to the left, to the right. The more you mix it, the more evenly it's going to sprout, and that's what we want. Now, on the second day, you're going to notice that it's actually going to cake on the bottom. The roots are going to start growing within each other. They're going to make like cakes. And you want to break those up, and don't worry about breaking the roots if they fall off or whatever. It's not going to affect them growing, but you do want to break those up. It's going to make like almost like a carpet in a way, and we want to separate those, break them up so that molds and that moisture doesn't get trapped in there. And then you just break it all up, rotate it, top to the bottom, bottom to the top, left to the right, those kind of things. Just make sure it's nice and even. Put it back out nice and evenly. Now as it starts to sprout, the roots start to sprout, it's going to fluff. It's going to get almost twice the size, so it's going to grow higher. That's actually good because it actually adds more air space in there. So don't worry about that. Just do the same thing. Fluff it up a couple times a day. Make sure it's covered, put something on top of it, and have your third day, you really want to start looking at the shooting, how far the shooting is. You should start the second day, and of course I'll show you here where what you have to watch out for. The shoots, how it works is you have the berry, and what happens is the roots will form on the bottom like this, and the shoot will start to grow inside, and as it grows, eventually it's going to pop out and become the plant. So this will be the plant above the berry. What we want is as it grows, we're watching it, how long it gets. Sometimes it'll actually curve out and pop out before the top. Very common, so watch out for that. But it'll actually come up, and we want it between 50 to 90%. And what's happening here is it's creating sure the roots are pushing out, so it's looking for moisture and nutrients. And the berry is producing these sugars. And the higher that shoot goes, the more sugars it has created. As it reaches the top, it needs that sugar to sprout into the full plant. And as it shoots out, if it sees sun, it'll turn green up on top. That we don't want. That's a process of the plant to protect itself from the sun. It makes it turn green. It gives you that grassy flavor, and we don't want that. It's very bad. So we want to make sure to get it before it reaches that point. Now, when that is depending on climate and moisture, all these things. So you have to watch. You have to break them open. You break open the berry the second day for sure. And the third day is an absolute must because we're in my location here. That second day, there is sometimes that second day I need to put it out because it can get quite hot here. It can get up to 100-something degrees. So you have to watch it. In cooler climates, like in Minnesota, it took 3-4 days, sometimes 5, depends on the weather, of course. So in your area, you'll just learn, but as long as you watch after the second day and wait till wait till you start seeing a variety. So what I usually do is I take 6 or 8 of the berries and then I peel them open, and I see at what point I'm at. Now once it reaches that 90% mark, we want to get it out from the sprouting phase into the drying phase, out into the sun and dry. The longer we wait now, more possibilities are going to have off flavors because it'll just keep growing. I'll leave a few out. I'll leave a few in the area that it was sprouting, so you'll be able to see things that can go wrong, what to watch out for. But once you start seeing it, that 90% mark, like I said, I take between 8 and 10 berries, and I'll break them open, each one, and I'll be able to see where that shoot is inside the berry. And that 8 to 10 gives you a very good guess mark when to pull it off and put it into the sun, do the drying process. What are the disadvantages of doing it too early? Well, the sugars. If you do it too early, the sugar won't be high enough. So if a recipe calls for 12 pounds of malted barley, you'll probably have to have double that, depending on where that shoot was. If it's a 50%, it might be double. If it's lower than that, it could be more. So we want to make sure and get it as high as we can, no less than 75%, because then it really alters the amount of cost into the brewing process. Now, as you can see here, see how big this one is? That's way too long. This was about a day or so, a day and a half too late. This one here just appeared. See how this one is still white and this one's turning green? You see the greenish tint in this one? That green means that it's going to start, has chloroform in it, which is turning it into, giving you those off flavors. Now this was where the berries stuck together and they weren't rotated, pulled apart. You can see how it's starting to get some mold. Look, it's starting to turn color, and this is not good either. If you start seeing this, you want to look through your entire batch, make sure that it's not all of it. Take these out, and you should be fine. It's the importance of always rotating and mixing and trying to get those roots apart.